the Flyers have been very forceful in trying to downplay his rookie season,
No, very
rookie
much so.
year.
Yeah.
Uh, his preseason did very little to dampen the expectations because he played very well. I think it was a point a game.
Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of The Men in Orange and Black with Steve Murray. I am, of course, Matt Craig. We are happy that you are with us. Steve, how you doing this evening, man? What's going on?
I'm doing well, except you introduced yourself, of course, as if this is a regular thing for us, which it's
Well,
not.
it's not. No, it's like
Yeah,
it's
not yet.
not yet. No, but it is our very first episode, The Men in Orange and Black. We're really excited to bring this podcast to you guys. We're going to be talking everything about the Philadelphia Flyers for the entire season and hopefully multiple seasons down the road. But why don't we just go right ahead and I guess I'll just share what we're going to be talking about today. First,
Well, before we do that, maybe we should just explain why we're doing this, because we're fans of the
we're
Flyers,
huge
and
fans. Yeah.
we feel like the voice of the sane fan is not out there in the sphere. So we thought it would be good to have some sane Philadelphia Flyer fans,
Yeah.
riff on what's going on with the Flyers, just from a sane perspective.
I
'Cause
love this. Yeah.
when we were talking about the format, we used to sit up in the 200 level together, and we were literally Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets because we were doing that during the Andrew McDonald years, and
Oh,
there was nothing else we could do.
yeah,
The
exactly.
the Andrew McDonald era, as we'll come to call it.
God. Oh, man. But
So,
very
we
fortunately, yeah, go on.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we were coming up with the idea for this podcast, we're like, well, maybe we should do something with the Muppets, But we settled on Men in Orange and Black because it just
It
it was
just
like a
goes.
lightning bolt struck our
Yeah.
brain.
We were trying to find like a name for it, but we finally found it. We love it. And yeah, so why don't we just like dive right into like what we're going to be talking about today? We have basically three topics, or I guess you could say three periods.
See
As it
what you
comes
did
to
there.
this. But first, we've got basically an off season that was, kind of ho hum. Yeah, right. And then, of course, the second period, we're going to be talking about one Matvei Michkov and our regular season expectations of him. And then finally, we're going to give you our season predictions. Where do we think the Flyers are going to end up in this season? So, Steve, why don't we just dive right on in with this offseason that really, if you stop to think about it, it was really quiet for like the first couple of weeks. Everybody kind of knew that the Flyers weren't going to sign anybody. They were kind of right up against the cap for one thing. And, they just, were kind of waiting on somebody from the Soviet, the former Russia or the Russian Federation, I should say.
Well, the Soviet Union. We could talk politics.
We
on
can
this
talk
program.
politics,
That's fine.
And then all of a sudden, just right after a couple days after my birthday, July 22nd, news starts rumbling out there. And a certain 19-year-old kid shows up, and apparently he was released from his KHL contract after one season, and he is now with the Philadelphia Flyers. Huge, as you can see here on screen, we got a huge, big photo of Jonesy and Briere with huge smiles on their faces, walking with Matvei Michkov in the airport, and Michkov with a big Phillies cap on, which I absolutely love. That was fantastic. But Steve, Michkov, right? Probably the best prospect since, do we dare say, number 88?
He's over here somewhere.
Yeah. What do you think?
Certainly, we haven't had this much excitement with a prospect since Lindros.
Yeah.
He's got a level of talent that, while our most recent previous captain Claude Giroux possessed a lot of talent, I think Michkov is a next level. It is just what it seems like, and what the chatter is like. And so, yeah, this is a hype train we haven't seen since 1992 when Lindros came over in the trade from Quebec.
Yeah.
And so it's got everybody excited. I know I was thrilled. we're going to talk more about him, coming up in the second period. But it's been one of those things you wait all summer to see him at camp, and you see the rookie game, the first rookie game he played in, and then you
Oh.
see a preseason game, and it's almost like, all right, that's cute. Let's start the regular
Yeah,
season.
like
Let's
right
go.
now.
Yeah, let's go.
Like right
Come
now.
on.
There's funny. It's like a side note of that. The NHL might be shortening their preseason by like 4 games, only making it like a 4 game regular or 4 game preseason, I should say. And with it being like an 84 game regular season, which would blow my mind if that were to be the case. It's been a while, but yeah, I
Well, they,
mean,
they used to have 84-game
a
seasons, though.
long
So
time ago, yeah, like
yeah.
in the early day, yeah, way back then. But certainly the kid's talent, I mean, it's spectacular. You don't see the craftiness of him, of his puck handling ability. It's just I don't think I've ever seen it since Giroux. And one has been desperately needed. Again, we'll go into a little bit more into it, but what
Yeah.
a huge, like all of a sudden it was like a breath of fresh air. And everybody in the NHL was like, wait, what? He wasn't supposed to come over 2 years
Yep.
early. If he was, well, we would have signed up for him. Well, somehow
Exactly.
Briere got a little step ahead there. And yeah, it was huge. Huge signing.
Yeah, totally good stuff. So I was so thrilled to see them come over. It's
Yeah,
gonna be, if nothing else, it's gonna be fun to watch him over the next 82 games.
no question about it.
He's been treating us through the preseason with some spectacular play, and I certainly hope it's going to continue.
Can't wait. So then, really, the big news outside of Michkov, which again we'll get into further in the second period, but Travis Konechny got a huge contract signing. I think it was 8 year deal, close to 80 million. I think, or is this
No, it was
70
eight
something,
point seven
75
five
million
or something
per?
per year.
And
I don't remember the exact number.
I remember hearing that news, and to me, that was like, why not sign this guy? He is the heart and soul of the Flyers. But Steve, you had an interesting or found some people that were freaking out over this. So let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, when they first started talking about what the contract would look like before he'd even signed,
Hmm.
well, the rumor was floated, oh, he's asking for 10 million. Well, that's what he's asking for. You in contract negotiation, I'm a lawyer. You start high, one side starts high, one side starts low, and you
Kind of
creep
work your way in.
somewhere
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was never going to get $10 million a year.
Yeah.
It's settled being under 9, which I think is a fine number. I think that's expected value for someone of his ilk.
Hmm.
People were upset because I think it's higher than the deal that Sam Reinhart got in Florida, but Florida, you pay no income taxes, so you can afford to.
Make that
He's
kind of money.
probably making more money not paying income taxes than Konechny is with the higher salary
Yeah, for
in
sure.
number.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not, but people were upset about it. People always have something to gripe with. He got the maximum, which it's fine. You were going to have to do that. I think the cap hit is fine.
Hmm.
People are freaking out about a no trade clause. I mean, it's if he's so bad that you want to trade him, nobody's going to want to trade for him, or at least give you anything valuable for him.
Yeah.
So, what difference does it make if he's got a no trade clause or not?
And he's also your best player. Clearly was your best player prior to
At the
certain
time, yeah.
at the time.
Well, I mean, probably at this time still is. I mean, Michkov has to get into the league and prove it.
Prove it.
But
Absolutely.
as of right now, he is their best proven player.
Yeah.
And the fact is, whether they're competing next year or 2 years or 3 years down the line, you're going to need a player like Travis Konechny. So, I mean, it was a similar discourse with the Phillies, like Aaron Nola. You could go out and get a Travis Konechny who
Mhm.
you don't know about personality wise, locker room wise, health wise,
Right.
or you could take the Travis Konechny you have in hand that inside and out, who's been with you for what, 7 years now?
Yeah.
I lost
He
track.
knows your culture. He knows your organization, all that kind of stuff. It's not like a Patrick Laine, leaving Columbus and going to Montreal. Montreal maybe had an idea that he was hurt, but now he's out for like a couple of months. So it's
Well, he got hurt in a preseason game, but
oh, there you go.
when you bring in a free agent, you don't know how they're gonna mesh with the locker room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what their personality is. You just don't know, and you don't have their health history. Yes, you can get a doctor's report,
Mhm.
but unless you've been through the injury history kind of with the player, you don't have a really good feel for what to look for.
Yeah.
So, I was fine with signing the way he did, and I think it worked out best for both sides. And he'll be what, 34
Yeah.
when the deal's over,
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, that's not ancient.
No.
You know what I mean? Couturier is the more worrisome one because he's going to be, I think, 37 or 38. Yeah, when you get to that age, but 34, you're going to see probably a decline at that point, but it's not. Hopefully he doesn't go like Cam Atkinson and fall off a cliff.
Yeah,
But
exactly, and certainly you got him right now in his essentially, like, his the prime of his career.
he's in his prime, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like you make that deal just for that so that you have that long-term security, and he didn't wanna sign anywhere else. He made it very clear in interviews that he was talking to people. He was just like, "I love Philadelphia. I love playing for the fans," and, and he has definitely proven himself over the last few years, even in this the post Chuck Fletcher era, he was clearly their best player.
Mhm.
Um,
And you brought up a good point about certainty.
yeah,
Now you have certainty that you have Konechny here and in hand, rather than having to play the waiting game of like free agency.
yeah,
Well, who's going to be available? Well, the names you see as possibilities today may not be there. All those people who were drooling over thinking we were somehow getting Leon Draisaitl as a free agent, he's now signed long term $14 million a year with the Oilers. It's
yeah,
not happening.
that ain't
So,
happening. Yeah, so it's like you make that deal, and it's okay to make that kind of a deal. You know where you're at in the
yeah,
organization in that regard. And again, like I said, he loved to be here.
right.
That matters. That matters a great deal for any player. I don't care who you are. They want to stay long term. They believe in the vision and what they're going to do, and and that kind of deal. So it's huge. I think it was a great signing. And then if we're going to fast forward here, we go to the draft, and you got Jett Luchanko, which okay, there was some back and forth. Oh, we should have gone for after another prospect that we don't know about here. But here comes Luchanko, 18, I think, 18 years
He
old.
just turned 18 in August.
I mean, there you go. And all of a sudden, they're looking at him and they're thinking, okay, 9 games, might see where do we fit him in here. It was like unexpected for him to make the roster. I did not anticipate that. Steve, I'm pretty sure you didn't anticipate that.
No, I mean he played very well early in the rookie camp and the rookie
Hmm.
games and early in training camp. I thought he, at least production wise, he became a little bit less noticeable, but he's great skater.
Yeah,
My
boy, he can
concern
skate.
with keeping him was more about like, is he going to get the ice time he really needs to develop as an 18-year-old, a young 18-year-old? But to me, if he performed that well enough at camp, there's no harm in keeping him around for the 9 games you can keep him without burning on his entry level contract year.
Yeah.
So, why not see? And I think that's what they want to do. It's like, well, we saw him in the preseason.
Hmm.
He looked pretty good.
Hmm.
Let's see what it's like when he's actually playing night in and night out against some NHLers, and see where he is before we kind of decide, yeah, we ought to keep him, or let's send him back. If he performs, I expect I'll send him back unless he really comes flying out of the gate.
Yeah.
Um, it puts up unreal numbers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think they're going to see kind of gauge his level of readiness before they send him down, and that way they can tell him the things he needs to work on while he's down in June.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where would you slot him really in the starting lineup for these, like, let's just say first handful of games? Do you think he'll be third line, fourth line center?
I would hope not fourth.
Yeah. Because I think that would
My
be detrimental. Yeah, for
I
him.
do. And in a lot of cases, you'd think third line might also be detrimental, but I feel like the third line's probably going to get a lot of ice time.
You're still going to get
Uh,
like 9, 10 minutes a night, probably as a
no,
third line
probably
center.
more than that. You'll probably get 12 or
12,
13
13.
minutes on
Yeah.
that line. Fourth line usually sees less than 10. So
Yeah.
that would be suboptimal for somebody you're trying to develop their skills.
Yeah. No doubt.
Um,
Yep.
so a third line, you figure Couturier and Frost, maybe Luchenko slots ahead of Couturier, depending on the situation. If you need more offense,
Yeah.
Couturier, if you need, to defend a lead or something.
Hmm.
So you'll probably see some flip flops there, but I'm looking forward to see what he can do in
Yeah.
the regular season. Because he
especially in the
looked
first
good
month. Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And going up against like the top defense pairings, whatever the case may be, whoever he goes up against. It'll be
Well,
interesting to see how he comes out. Yeah.
certainly we're going to look at the schedule in the third period, but
Oh,
the early schedule
ooh,
is a little grueling. So he's going to get a look at some top teams.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about that. So then, really, to close out this first period, Steve, let's talk about the goalies. It
Yep.
seems to be the hot button topic of Philadelphia, really within the last, oh, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 years. Certainly long,
40.
yeah, maybe longer than that. Really, since Pelly Lindbergh, probably dating ourselves way back then. The search for the number one goalie continues. Of course, we had the loser that we thought was number one. Now he's an unrestricted free agent. We'll never see him again in that
Probably not.
regard. So now it's back to square one. And so we have Sam Ersson, who I think will be starting goal opening game tomorrow night
Yeah.
against Vancouver. So I think that will be a big time start for him. Where do you see him right now? I think in relation, like he did wear down the stretch, no question about it. Torts really pushed him hard towards the end of the last season. He did not respond well. Where do you think Sam Ersson stands right now? Do you think he's going to be fully ready to be number one? How many games do you see him play? That kind of a deal. What do you think?
I mean, he played very well last season when Hart was here.
Yeah. Who?
Splitting time with him, and he who shall not be
He shall
named
not
on
be
this
named.
podcast. By the way, for anyone who leaves a comment, the first person to leave a comment gets one of those Men in Black memory flashy thingies.
Oh,
that
there you go.
Only targets the memory cells. Only targets the memory cells with Carter Hart and Andrew McDonald.
There you go. Who? What?
I think he's got the mental makeup to be a number one,
Yeah.
but I at least at the moment he can't handle like a Martin Brodeur type load.
No.
You know, like 72 games. No.
Yeah,
And
that's
was,
ridiculous. Yeah.
You know, Torts admitted he ran him into the ground, and that was not. It was out of necessity. He really didn't have much choice.
Yeah. There was no backup goaltender to speak of. So you're going to go with your number one. And unfortunately, he faltered down the stretch. No fault of his own. It was just that was a lot placed on him. You're right. You're right on the money.
Yeah. So I don't look at him as of having a problem mentally being a number one. I just the workload is what bothers me. If they can keep him to like 50 to 55 starts on the season, I think that would be an optimal number of games. I think that's manageable, and I think that would split. You know, the when the schedule gets really compacted, I think that helps him to stay fresher, which would be obviously good for him.
Yeah.
And so it really, and he had two good preseason games. He looked very sharp and
very sharp. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to him. I think he can handle it. The real question is, can the backup situation take the rest of that load off of his plate so he can develop into that number one goaltender? And that's where Ivan Fedotov, at least initially, will step in.
Yeah, that's a great segue because you got really essentially two Russian goaltenders here, Ivan Fedotov and Alexei Kolosov. Let's talk about Fedotov. Here he comes. We didn't think we would ever see him, especially when he was called and served in, I don't know, Siberia, maybe?
Called? You mean when he was hauled into like a white van, black bag? Yeah.
I mean, that was a bizarre event, but he eventually, I guess, served his time, got out, and now he's saved. He's been brought here and really came in tail end. I remember like a few of the games last year where he's like wearing all white, goalie pads. Nothing's like made for him or anything like that. Here you go. Here, we could just stick you in for a couple of games and see how you do.
Drove him from Philadelphia International to Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Like, all right, on the ice, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So wait, what? Obviously, I think the biggest key is I think he will be the backup. The question is how many games will he do? And I think we were talking about this in Bree. Really, if he could get up to 30, if he can really hit that 30 game mark and give like Ersson really of like, let's just say 50 to 52 starts, let's just say, that would be tremendous. I think that would be a big time help. And if you win maybe 1/3 or 1/2 of your Fedotov starts, that's huge. That's massive in an NHL standings bracket for sure. What do you think of Fedotov in terms of like? I mean, the guy is huge, 6'4"
I think
or
7.
7.
I think it's 6'7".
I
Yeah.
mean, he's like, my God, he just covers the net incredibly huge. I mean, I've never played with a goaltender that big before.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you haven't. What do you think about this with him being so tall?
He's got size to his advantage.
Yeah, yeah.
It's when you have a guy that big, the saves are going to look a little awkward, but you live with it if you can stop the puck.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He's his biggest issue. I think he's had success internationally,
Mhm.
so it's not like he's a complete unknown. His biggest issue will be getting used to NHL talent and the NHL rink size.
Yeah.
The things are going to come at you a lot faster. And I thought he looked okay in the preseason. So we'll just have to see how that goes. That's probably the biggest unknown at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah, for sure. And then, well, equally as strange, I guess you could say, is Alexei Kolosov here. Tail end of the training camp, he doesn't want to come. Or actually, it was like right before training camp, I think, started,
Right.
and he was like complaining, "Oh, I want to go home. I'm homesick." And then all of a sudden, with about a couple games before the end of the preseason, change of heart, he comes back, and then of course gets shipped to Lehigh Valley. So, which is kind of an interesting way to start your NHL kind of career, I guess you could say. You had something though on Danny Briere with
Well,
him, right? I
what
mean,
I thought was, yeah, well, I mean, this was another thing over the offseason that I think people were making more of a big deal out of than was necessary.
hmm,
Like, oh, they lost Quitter Gauthier, now they're going to lose Kolosov, who was
yeah,
he's another unknown goalie. You don't know if he's good or not, right? So
mhm.
why are we freaking out about this? What I thought was funny was Danny Briere's pre-camp press conference. He was asked extensively about it, and if you listen closely, he kind of went like Liam Neeson on him, threatening. Like he actually said, I don't have the exact quote in front of me.
Yeah,
It's like if he ever wants to play hockey,
like
because
he can't.
he's under contract for us,
Yeah,
and technically, I mean, he could sign with KHL and be in violation of international agreements.
yeah. If he
Which
really wants to
who
do that,
knows?
yeah,
But yeah, so I think what happened was midway through camp, he got Danny Briere picks up the phone and goes, "Listen here, you little shit. I'm Danny Briere. If you ever want to play hockey again, you'll report to the Flyers."
yeah.
And he showed up.
And he showed
And there you
up.
go.
There you go.
There you go.
So it'll be interesting. Like he did struggle, obviously. I think the last couple of starts he was kind of getting a little shelled there. It didn't seem like he
Um, I
maybe.
didn't I didn't think many of the goals were his fault. The ones
Yeah,
that I saw, they were cross ice and
you're not
little
going to get
chances. But
there. Yeah,
yeah,
makes
but
sense.
I think if playing in Lehigh Valley, he'll get our eyes on him closely so they can see
Yep.
where he's at and then what they can do with or for him
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
At least he's here, and that's a good step.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll see how that goes. All right, second period here, Men in Orange and Black, episode 1,
Should we
and
switch sides?
I guess yeah, we could probably switch sides. Why not? That kind of a deal. Long shift. Why not?
Right.
Um, so let's focus in on this Russian phenom here, one Matvei Michkov. Steve, you have some very helpful comparables here. Obviously, I mean, we talked about it before in the first period about Michkov and the buzz and the excitement that he's generated, and certainly the preseason, he like with the game on his stick against, I think it was Boston, right?
Yep.
Huge overtime goal, crowd goes crazy. You could just see, I mean, Jim Jackson with a great call, Michkov mania, which I'm not sure that's really taking off just yet. It might, but it's definitely the start of something for him. And the skillfulness, I should say, that he exhibited in not only just the game against Boston, but the game against the Islanders, especially.
Hmm.
Just the stick handling and the awareness of where everybody was on the ice. He was able to find guys in stride. I mean, it's unbelievable. The skill level that this kid has is unreal. But You wanted Mr. Murray to talk. Well, let's before we get into like the comparisons and everything. What are your thoughts here on this kid? Um, 19 years old coming in to the Flyers. What are your initial
Well,
impressions of this kid?
I mean, the Flyers have been very forceful in trying to downplay his rookie season,
Oh, very
rookie
much so.
year.
Yeah.
Uh, his preseason did very little to dampen the expectations because he played very well. I think he was a point a game, had the Boston overtime winner.
Yeah.
He passes with a purpose. He finds really tight seams, makes those plays, knows where everybody is. Very good at keeping the puck on his stick.
Not only that, but he could steal the puck. You ever notice
Yeah.
that? Like with him, he just whoop, and he just takes it away, and it's like,
Mhm.
whoa, wait, what? How does he have the puck already? And it's like he keeps the plays alive in the offensive zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
phenomenal. So I'm it. Whatever the Flyers are trying to do to say, pump the brakes.
It
Michkov
ain't
was like,
working.
well, hey, let's go. So yeah, I mean, look, he's in a new country. He's got to learn a new league. He's going to have struggles. He's never played 82 games against the best players in the world.
Yeah.
So you have to expect at some point there's going to be, dips in the game.
Yep.
It's all going to be about how he handles them and what he does when he's not scoring.
Yeah.
That like Morgan Frost is brought up often as Torts' favorite whipping boy, but
Mm.
the fact of the matter is Frost is here to score. And when he's not scoring, he becomes invisible.
Yeah.
So
Which
Torts
happened last year.
benches him
Yeah.
because when he's not scoring, he's not affecting the game positively in any other way.
Yeah.
So that's, but it seems to me like Michkov has enough in him that even if he's not scoring, and hopefully he just will, even with the lows, hopefully are
Mhm.
still high,
Yeah.
um, that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
And Torts is going to give him a leash to, he's he's not going to be have to hang down below the circles all the time.
Yeah.
He can leak when the opportunities present themselves.
I think that's going to be key. I wonder how long. That's a great point. How long is that leash that Torres is going to give this kid? Because you know that Michkov, has to learn how to play in this NHL.
Mhm.
The KHL, yes, there are professionals in that league. There's no question about it. It's like the second best league, I think, in the entire world. For sure.
But it's still not the same.
But it's not the same. The NHL, smaller rink, bigger, faster, stronger guys are out
Mhm.
there right now, and he is not fully developed as of yet.
Right.
Tremendous talent with the puck, no question about it.
Strong too. He is strong for
Very,
his size.
very underrated in terms of his strength. Exactly. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does it. And then on top of that, the power play is already 100% better with him on the ice. The one play that he made against the Boston game, he steals the puck in the offensive zone, gets it back to the point, and what does he go? What does he do? He goes to the far post, and he waits for that pass, goes across. I think it was, I forget who the defenseman was, but it was a great seam pass. He's right there, off his stick, into the net. All started from him. All started because he stole the puck in that offensive zone and got it back out to the point, and he went to where he was supposed to go. So he
Well, look,
knows his
it's
IQ is off the charts right now with him.
it's no secret that had the power play been better than a wartime atrocity last season,
Oh God, yeah,
they would have made the playoffs probably.
probably
'Cause that the power play alone probably cost them 2 or 3 games
easily.
minimum,
Yeah,
easily, probably more.
yeah,
Uh,
and they were
so
out of the
he
playoffs by 4 points. So I mean that goes to
yeah,
show if you
he
get
can
this,
he can
yeah,
raise that ceiling
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But you wanted to, and I think this is great because again, the comparisons, right? This is I mean, we titled our first episode "The Matvei Michkov Era Begins." We've had different eras of Flyers hockey. You had the Broad Street Bullies. You've got the Lindros era. You got the Keith Primo era, Simone Gagne, and then Claude Giroux. And now you've got this kid. And this kid, again, took Philadelphia by storm. He's back. He's here. Massive thing. You wanted to show some comparisons, I think, to our audience here. Why don't we go ahead and pull this up?
Yeah, so I mean, the you can see the names on the slide. The first one, just because we say he's the best prospect we've had since Lindros,
Mhm.
I put Lindros up here. Not, they're two completely different styles. I mean, Lindros would lug the puck through center. I was kind of shocked not to see he doesn't do that very much actually.
Yeah.
He's more of a get open and then make plays rather than kind of lug the puck up the ice.
Mhm.
But Lindros was a center and Michkov was a winger, so that's to be expected. But it just the hype train, how
Mm.
I was curious how well did Lindros perform in his rookie year?
Yeah.
Because certainly the we had the same level of excitement at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can see the stats on the left under actual. That's what he actually, but hockeyreference.com has adjusted, which I guess
Mm.
adjusts for time periods or something.
Or maybe
So
like an
so you
80
could be
game
more
season maybe
comparable.
or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't quite get it. But so Lindros, as you can see, played 61 games, was actually over a point a game,
Yeah.
75 points, 41 goals. He had a pretty outstanding rookie campaign. Probably would have won the Calder Cup or the Calder Trophy, but somebody named Teemu Solani scored 76 goals or something insane like that year. So
Thanks a
he
lot,
got it.
Timo. Come on now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he had a really good, and adjusted points is 60, which is still pretty good. That's a point a game,
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And the Flyer, I was actually surprised. I thought the Flyers stunk that year, but they were kind of like the Flyers of last year where they just missed the playoffs by a couple points,
Yeah.
interestingly enough.
And they
So,
were coming. You could definitely tell. I mean, he was huge in that regard, made everybody better. You had the crazy eights line as well
mhm.
with that. So that's massive. That is a
So
massive
yeah,
bet.
yeah, I would love for Michkov to reach these levels. But the one thing you do have to
Oh,
remember is Lindros was playing with uh, a future Hall of Famer in Mark Recchi,
uh-huh.
who put up a lot of points on his own, holds the Flyers single season record for points in a season.
Yeah.
Um, So he had some dynamic line mates to work with upon his rookie campaign.
Yeah.
Whether I mean I love some of the young kids here, but we're not talking, at least not from what I see yet, a Mark Recchi level
Yeah.
of of line mate.
Yeah.
So Lindros had an outstanding rookie season points wise. He and what's funny is he was like if he had played a full season, maybe he would have been higher up in the points race,
Just
but
wonder.
the top point getters were like 140 points or something that season, and he was way down just because he played so many fewer games.
You still wonder though, right? I mean, could it have been a
Oh yeah.
100-point rookie season at that
Oh
point,
yeah.
and how that would have been close, probably for the Calder Trophy
Yeah.
with it. But he was a true unicorn. I mean, we have to make that
Right.
also too. Six
Yeah.
foot four, 235, linebacker on skates, could skate like the wind on top of it. He was just completely like nothing the NHL had seen back then
Absolutely.
in that regard.
So I mean, this was the comparison is again just because it's the hype, right? This is the
Absolutely, yeah.
first. This is the first time. Now
Yeah.
these other three guys I have pulled from other media reports and scouting reports that have made these comparisons. So I didn't just make these up.
Mm.
Nikita Kucherov is one who popped up in several places,
Mhm.
and boy, would I love it if he turned into a Nikita Kucherov.
Oh yeah, yeah.
100 and what points last season? He led
144, I think I
100,
heard, or
yeah,
something
something
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
It led the league, so I would be thrilled with that. But
Oh my
as you
gosh,
can
yeah.
see, Kucherov's rookie season, nothing to
Nothing.
write home about.
No.
Played 52 games, had 18 points, 9 goals. Adjusted was 20 points.
Mhm.
Um, Different situation a little bit. He was coming into a team that still had some major talent on it with Stamkos. St. Louis was still there when he started.
Mhm.
But he was also a 58th overall draft pick for those of you who
Mm.
only think top 5 picks ever make an impact.
Yeah.
Um, so he didn't come with the first round expectations either. So he could just kind of come in and be himself. So I would prefer Michkov's
Maybe
exhibit a little bit more than this.
this. Yeah.
Um, But this just goes to show you, even if his rookie year gets off to a slow start,
Yeah, yeah.
that doesn't necessarily project out beyond
So
because
let's tell our Flyers fans out there, pump the brakes if he does not put up the numbers that you think it might be. Just pump the
yeah,
brakes. First season, he's not going to be this low, but just be aware of that in the back of your mind. And
mhm.
maybe that might be a possibility. and that down the road he turns into Kucherov, who, by the way, had 100 assists of his 144
Oh, there you
points.
go.
So, I mean, there you go. Sometimes it's all about the playmaking than it is
Right.
more about the goal scoring. So keep that
All
in
right, and
mind.
then these other two. So the next one is Yevgeny Malkin, who again I
Oh,
would be thrilled if he turned into Malkin without the
well, yeah,
douchebaggery.
without douchebaggery,
Yeah, but
yeah.
Malkin, as you see, had a terrific rookie campaign. 79 games, 95. Am I reading that right?
85.
95 points.
85
85
points.
points.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
Mhm.
really tiny on my screen because I have the fade out all in. Um, yeah, so well over a point a game, but he was a year older than Michkov when he joined the Penguins.
Yep.
He was coming to a team that already had Crosby over 100 points in his
Mhm.
rookie season.
Yep.
So he was on a team on a fast rise. He's also a different player. He's a big guy
Yeah.
and he plays center. So I wasn't real sure where the comparisons were coming from these scouting reports. I think it was just how the how they performed in the KHL relative to each other.
Probably, yeah. Maybe there might be some elements of playmaking there. I mean, when I think of Malkin, I don't think of a high goal scoring, although rookie year, obviously he's got like
Yeah,
33,
33.
but that's not too bad for a rookie season.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of like maybe I could see, maybe his vision or something along those lines. It's a,
Right.
ability to pass the puck, whatever the case may
Yeah,
be.
for
Could be a
sure.
number of different things. Yeah.
So again, if he put up those kind of numbers at any point in his career, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Artemi Panarin, who Torts has familiarity with, having coached him.
Yep.
Um, you could see the numbers he put up. He had 80 games, 77 points, pretty good.
Yep.
Again, to temper expectations, you have to remember he came in as a 26-year-old, stole the Calder Trophy because he was an old fart. He also was coming to a Chicago Blackhawks team coming off its third Stanley Cup win.
Yeah.
They still had Patrick
Cade,
Kane, Jonathan
Taves.
Taves,
Yeah.
Marion Hossa, all
Yeah.
those guys were there.
Yeah.
So, we don't have that level of talent on this team. So
Yeah.
the Panarin rookie season is tough. So
Yeah.
this goes to show you that these types of dynamic players can be all over the map in their first year.
Mhm.
It really can depend on the context. And especially in Kucherov's case, even if it's below kind of an expectation,
Mm.
that doesn't necessarily mean what's going to happen 3-4 years down the line.
Right, exactly. So then, okay, so let's spin this forward then. Now that we have the comparisons really of what's going on here, I don't think he's Lindros. I think we could throw that out. It's safe to assume. I don't think he has that type of unicornish skill style, that kind of a deal. I think we could throw that out. But I do see I agree with you. I think the Kucherov comparison, my God, if this is Nikita Kucherov 2.0 in Michkov,
Mhm.
all for it and then some. I would want
Oh,
a
yeah.
guy that can dish and that can score. Where do you see him in his rookie season? What would be your reasonable expectation of him, Steve, knowing what you've presented here between the four players?
Looking at what I put up here, I would love to see 20 goals
Oh,
and 60 points,
so you got 40 assists there. Yeah.
40 assists. Whether he can reach that or not, and the assists, that's going to be on players to actually score and finish his passes.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit out of his control.
And it would
But
put a lot of pressure on Morgan Frost to finish those goals.
absolutely,
You
or
know?
anybody he's passing to. I mean,
Anybody,
he
yeah.
he can find them. The first pass I remember seeing that was I was like my jaw dropped was
Oh,
when he pulled up and he hit Cam York coming into the
yes.
zone, took a shot. Eric Johnson of all people happened to be in front of the net to put the rebound home, but whatever.
That was a
Uh,
tremendous play. Yeah, it was a tremendous
oh
play.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be on the team, and so from that perspective, it'll be partly on the team to fill his point total,
Mhm.
at least on the assist page.
Mhm.
But if he scores 20 goals, I would be thrilled.
Yeah.
If he had 15, I would be happy.
Yeah.
To just show some progress in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I would tend to agree. I think 15 to 20 for me would be great. 20 would be like cherry on top. You got a 20 goal scorer on your rookie campaign. That would
Yeah.
would be amazing. Um I could see 60. I could see 65 if he's on the power play and that power play improves. I could see that.
Well, if the power play does not approve, I will be reporting Rocky Thompson to the UN Council on Human Rights.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
Just
there's no excuse at this point.
no, none, none. And you're
None.
you're in a room, you're in a room planning it now every month with John LeClaire, Danny Heatley, Patrick Sharp.
Yeah.
You have
They're like,
you
there's
have
no
no
excuse now.
reason. None. None.
What I
None.
love too about the Flyers, you got to love their social media. Their social media is hilarious because it's like towards the end of the towards the end of the preseason, they were like they could not help themselves. Power play goal, and it's all an exclamation points. You know, it's like, oh my god, they scored a power play. It's
Right.
just like it's unbelievable. I would
Two
tend to.
power play goals in one game
It's just
in this
wild
economy.
in this
What
economy.
the
How could
hell?
that possibly happen? I would tend to agree. I think I'm going to err on your prediction. I think if you get Michkov at 20 goals, cherry on top, but I'm thinking probably more on the low end, probably 15, maybe pushing 20. But if you get a 60-point season out of this kid, I think that puts him in the running for the Calder Trophy, which the Flyers have never had a Calder Trophy winner. We looked it up.
Yeah,
They've
that blew my
never
mind.
had one. So this is our best chance in this kid to go for it. I think he is better than Celebrini. It's going to be interesting to see what happens out there in San Jose with him. But San Jose, I think, is way back, further back
Yeah.
from where we are in
Yeah.
terms of rebuild. And there's a lot of pressure on him to score a ton of goals. So
I don't care if he wins the Calder Trophy.
I would
It
love it.
it just to
Yeah.
me, if he won it, that would just be indicative that he had a great
Yeah,
rookie season.
absolutely.
And so that for that reason, I would be thrilled with it. But if he doesn't end up winning it, as long as he looks good all season, whatever he does point wise,
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
Whew, okay. Long shift over, Steve. We're back to the regular shift now. We're
All right.
third period here. And thank God, because that was a long shift, let me tell you. That second,
Yeah.
that second
No
period.
overtimes.
No overtimes, no. So now we get to our schedule prediction. And where do we think the Flyers are going to go in the season? So we're going to just briefly touch on the schedule here, see how they look. And as we kind of alluded in the beginning part of this episode, it's kind of a rough go, really, at the beginning part of this entire season. You're out in the Western Canada front. You got Vancouver starting tomorrow night, and then Calgary the next night, essentially, with Edmonton and then Seattle before you come back home in 2 days for the home opener against Vancouver. By the way,
That's not daunting at all.
that's not daunting at all. So that's going to be a little bit of a rough go. What do you think there, Steve? Western Canada road trip to start. It's kind of an
Yeah,
odd way to start.
Well, they've done it before.
They've done it before.
Ironically enough, or that's not irony, really. Coincidentally enough, Danny Briere's first season as a player with the Flyers started on a similar 3-game Western Coast string because I remember having to wake up the next morning to see the highlights of his first game because I was not staying up after 10 o'clock.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah, this one, unfortunately, we're going to have to maybe just read what happened. That kind of a
Yeah.
deal, or maybe see the
Yeah.
first period.
Exactly.
That kind of a deal. But then you've got home opener against Vancouver, so you're done with the Canucks very quickly.
Good, because they're a top Western team. I need to see
Yeah.
them.
I mean, they won the division out there in the Pacific last year. Home and home against Washington, which is going to be a very interesting home and home to start with in the Metro. And then just to finish out October, you got Minnesota, Montreal at home, back-to-back, Boston on the road, St. Louis at home. Initial
Yeah.
thoughts looking at October. What do you think?
October is going to be rough. I mean, the first couple months are going to be like as I was flipping through the schedule before we started the program,
Mm-hmm.
I kept going, ugh, ugh,
Yeah.
ugh. Like there was nothing easy, at least in the early part of the schedule, where you're like, oh, this is a game they should be able to win.
This is a huge
It was all
2
like, wow,
points.
that's a bad opponent. That's a tough
But,
opponent.
yeah.
That's a tough opponent.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they do there.
Yeah, November doesn't get any better.
Doesn't get any better at all. Boston at home, and then you got 3. So you got Carolina, and then your typical spring break trip down to Tampa and Miami against the Stanley Cup champs. Home for San Jose, and then you got at Ottawa, and then a 5-game homer. So you got Buffalo, Colorado, Carolina, Chicago, and those stupid Vegas Golden Knights.
Cap
Meanwhile,
Dodgers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then you're at Nashville, who seems to be everybody's pick to win the Stanley Cup this year because they
Yeah.
got everybody under the sun. And then the traditional Black Friday game against the Rangers, and then at St. Louis to finish out the month. So again, another kind of semi-compressed schedule. You can see there a little bit, a couple days off here and there. Initial thoughts looking at November, Steve.
Well, this is another tough month because you got the Stanley Cup champions, you got Boston again,
Yep.
you got Carolina twice, who's one of the top teams in the Metro. You got the Rangers, the Avalanche, the Golden. I mean, these are all
Yeah.
you know, Florida, Rangers, Avalanche, Golden Knights, Nashville. They're all cup contenders. Carolina is close. Boston's close. That's a gauntlet.
Yeah. No question about that. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting month for sure. And then the calendar turns to December. Do you remember, of course, like before we go on to this December, do you remember when we were at a couple of these games and you had the juggling
Yes,
snowman? Oh my
it was
God,
very
that was
hypnotic.
frightening. Very
Yes.
obnoxious and frightening. But anyway, heading into December, you've got Florida again at home, Stanley Cup champs, and then you're at Boston. But fortunately, I think that's it for the Boston Bruins. You're pretty much done, I think, at that
Well,
point.
that's good.
Could be wrong. Uh,
Stupid Bruins.
take a look at that. Yeah. The Utah Hockey Club, otherwise known as the Arizona Coyotes, but they are now known as the Utah Hockey Club. Maybe there might be the Utah Yeti by next year. We'll see.
I think they're going the season as hockey club. I
Yeah,
think
they are going as Hockey Club. Yeah, for sure.
it's unfortunate because
Yeah.
I don't know why it takes you a year. I mean,
To figure all
just
that out.
because
Yeah.
just because the Washington Redskins are indecisive doesn't mean you need to
Follow
take.
suit of what happened, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
At Columbus, Detroit at home, at Minnesota, and Detroit again. That's interesting there. Kings and Columbus before the Christmas break, and then Pittsburgh, Anaheim, LA, and San Jose to finish out December. So a little bit lighter, I think, here.
Yeah, you got Columbus twice. You got Anaheim. You got San Jose. Those all should be kind of bottom feeders that you should be beating at this point.
I would think.
Um, to if you're going to be an improved hockey team.
Yeah. And especially you got that nice 4-day Christmas break in there. So that's really good. And you're not killing yourself going across the Western coast,
Yeah.
that kind of deal. So in the January, Vegas and Toronto to finish out that road trip. Then you're back home for 4. So you back half of a home and home with Toronto, then Dallas, Anaheim. Oh, Quitter Coche's coming to Anaheim. Anaheim's coming January 11th,
I
2025.
saw him wearing number 61. Like, what kind of stupid douche number is that?
Jeez.
And don't give me that Corey Stillman shit. all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, come on. Seriously. And then Florida. And then at Columbus, at the Islanders and the Devils, home for Detroit. And then you're in New York back to back. New York Rangers and Islanders back to back, late January. And then you got the Devils home and away before you finish up with the Islanders at home on a back to back from coming off of the Jersey trip.
Yeah, this is the tough. If you could see there, you got 8 games in 14 days. That's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
And there's some really good teams in there as well. Florida, I see Florida, Toronto.
Yeah.
um,
Toronto twice.
Toronto twice.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be rough. That is really where you're gonna need Fedotov or whoever the backup goalie is at that point to give Sam Ersson a rest because
Yeah.
you're gonna need it. And this month you're playing Jersey 3 times, you're playing the Islanders 3 times. That's a lot of ground in the Metro that you're gonna be covering.
No question about it. And again, if you could try and split or maybe get 4 of, maybe 4 of the 6 wins or something like that, that's a great chance. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be rough. It's going to be a little bit of a rough go here. And then the schedule really lightens up in February, and that's only because of the Four Nations break that happens there. Colorado, before then, you're at Colorado, at Utah, and then you're home for Washington and Pittsburgh, which is interesting. Then you got the Four Nations break. You're off for essentially 2 weeks. You have Edmonton, Pittsburgh twice, home and away. So
And this break I think is really helpful for this reason.
Hmm.
I think it'll give Ersson
yeah,
a chance to catch his breath for
hmm
the stretch run. I think it'll benefit Michkov because he's not played an 82 game season before, so this will be a good break for him
hmm
to just because he's not going to be playing in the Four Nations because he's not from one of those Four Nations. So
yeah,
that's an opportunity for him to get some rest,
hmm
as well as if Luchanko just happens to still be here, that would be also good. But
Yeah,
so for Michkov and Ersson, this is going to be a very
massive.
important time.
Yeah, massive to trying to just lick your
Very
wounds a little
helpful,
bit. Yeah, very helpful. Yeah.
especially because as you see, scroll to March.
Let's turn the calendar. It gets interesting at Winnipeg, and then you got a long 7-game homestand. Calgary, Winnipeg again. So you're done with the Jets in March, period. Calgary, Winnipeg, Seattle. You got Jersey, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Carolina. That is a pretty good homestand to make up a lot of ground in a division
But
where
you're
it
also playing every other night.
you're
So
every
that's
other
going to be a
night.
grind. That's where the
Exactly.
break is going to be useful.
Exactly. 5-game road after the 7-game homestand. So you got Tampa Bay, Washington, Dallas, Chicago, and Toronto before finishing out the month at home with Montreal, Buffalo, and Nashville. So latter part of March, Steve, seems to be a little bit tougher than the first half of the month.
It
But
all looks tough to me, just
yeah,
because it's you only have one, looks to, well, two. You have two-day breaks in there,
yeah,
and that's it.
and that's it.
Everything else is every other night.
And it's every other night. Yeah, because you're making up obviously for February being because you have the 2 weeks off. But again, you got a chance if you're in it, and we'll talk about that later with the standings. If you're in it, you got a chance with that 7-game homestand. That's going to be massive, I think, in the beginning
Yeah.
part of that month, where you can make up a lot of really good points. You can get red
I
hot.
guess the one nice thing about the way this breaks out is you're playing a lot of those games at home, so you don't
Yeah.
have to travel on those off days,
Yep.
and the 5-game road trip is kind of all at once.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot of travel. It looks like they're going to Chicago and Dallas and Toronto. There's a lot of travel, but at least it's all kind of in a block
Hmm.
so that it's not like you come home and then go away and then come home and then go away. So you
Yeah.
have a long road trip and or long homestand, long road trip, and then more games at home.
Home.
So it's you kind of are consistent with it.
Yeah, exactly. And then to close out the season, you got Montreal Rangers, and then on the road, and then you have the Islanders at home with Ottawa on the road. Final home game against Columbus, and then at Buffalo to finish. So 6 games, but you're spreading them out really over 17 days. That's where it kind of lightens it up. You've got a
Yep.
4-day break, really coming off that brutal stretch in March. So at least there is some breaks in there. But again, I think that March homestand, I think, is going to be key. Really will determine whether or not the Flyers actually do make it in to the postseason or not.
Well, and here at the end of the schedule, you got games against teams that you may be fighting for a playoff spot with.
Absolutely.
Islanders, Ottawa, and
Montreal could be
Buffalo.
in there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So looking at all of that, Steve, what are your thoughts? Is this current Flyers team a postseason contender? Are they going to make the playoffs or not?
That's a really tough question
Mhm.
because I think they could improve just from Michkov alone
Mhm.
on what they did last year.
Mhm.
But the problem is the when I look at
Mm.
um like our division and the Eastern Conference
Mhm.
in general, it's there are so many teams
Mhm.
that could be playoff teams. Because so I have up here the final standings from the Metro last year.
Mhm.
And I think the Rangers are probably still the top of the division. I think the
Hurricanes are
Hurricanes
still there.
may slide a little bit, but I
Mhm.
still think they're probably the second best team.
Mhm.
And then you have the Islanders, the Capitals, the Penguins. The Devils are probably, you assume they will be better
Better
this
than
year.
last year.
They've
Yeah.
got their goaltending situation, at least for this year, I think, figured out with Markstrom.
Yep.
And Jack Hughes will be back from his shoulder injury. So you
Mhm.
have to think they're going to be better.
Yeah.
That could be a dogfight.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if you're talking wild card.
Yeah, but it just in the Metro
Oh
alone
yeah.
for that 3rd spot,
Yeah.
the Capitals, I think, are on the downswing from the Ovechkin years. They've lost TJ Oshie.
Yeah.
They made a bunch of moves this offseason to try and stay relevant, but I
Yeah.
don't think what they did, I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois has worn out his welcome in 3 different cities already,
Yeah.
so I don't know why they think
Like
he's
why
gonna
they
help.
think they could get him to like all of a sudden turn it around. when
right,
he's been like lackadaisical to say the least, and that's an understatement basically for his
right.
career.
So I think Washington is due to start their slide. I think Pittsburgh is at the point where they should start sliding. It's just Crosby
Yeah,
probably keeps them in it just
yeah,
because he's still probably if I mean McDavid's probably the number one at this point, but Crosby's still at least top three,
yeah,
you would think.
yeah.
Um, and the Islanders, I have no idea
Oh,
what's
you
going on
have
with
no
the
idea what
Islanders.
the
They're just
Islanders.
weird. I mean, everybody but the Blue Jackets
Yeah,
is probably going to be in the talk for that third spot.
yeah.
And then when you look at the wild card standings just from the East, you know, you had the Capitals made it in from our division. The Lightning were the other team. I don't see the Lightning dropping off
I think they slip.
substantially, even without Stamkos.
Yeah,
Although their depth takes a hit with him gone.
yeah.
Their division, the Atlantic Division, it's Florida, Boston, Toronto. I don't know, you know, whatever order.
Yeah.
But it's those three, and then you have the Red Wings, who just missed the playoffs because we let the Capitals get an empty net goal, uh, which was hilarious. By the
Hilarious to
way,
have that happen.
it's
Yeah.
payback for '97.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who knows if the Sabres are going to not suck? Finally,
Isn't that like what we always say about the Sabres, though? We can't figure them out every single year. I
at,
mean,
at
last playoff
some point, the
appearance.
law of averages they have to not suck.
Well,
It's just
yeah, but I mean, like, come on, it's been since 2011. I mean, it's like the longest. I think it's the longest streak without a playoff berth in the NHL history right now.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
But I mean, they were not far off,
yeah.
and maybe this is the year it finally picks up for them. Who
But the
knows?
Devils, you think is going to be better? I mean, they're
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, and the Senators may be better.
Uh,
You know, we'll
yeah,
see.
we'll
They could be
see.
in contention. Montreal with Patrick Laine having now be out 2 or 3 months,
That's going to
that
hurt
may
them.
hurt them. And we said the Blue Jackets are probably not. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a dogfight.
yeah.
Like I said, I think they could be better than they were last year,
But does that
points wise,
But does that
and still not
translate?
make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking at this. I think I famously predicted on another podcast that you and I do. Two Noobs Talking. Check it out up here, upper right corner. Um, I don't know. I this one is, year 3 huge for Tortorella. It's massive for him. I don't think he's going anywhere. To be honest with you, I think he's probably maybe a couple more years coaching this team, and then he'll great.
Probably.
They won't ask him to. He's not going to get fired. There's no way they're going to fire this guy. He's too
At this point in time, I would say no.
no. So with Michkov added, skill level is there, but that's a lot of pressure for a 19-year-old to perform at a rate where you're asking. I think they will be in contention for the wild card, but do I think they make it in? Well, it's probably going to be kind of like this. Final game of the season comes down to, you got to score, or a goal in order to get in or something like that. And they either make it or they don't. I think they're right on the cusp. There's no way I don't think they're going to be a top 3 contender. I mean, they were a top 3 in the division for a majority of the year until really February, March, April, when they really started to slide down. So I don't see that happening. I don't see like the rocket start that they had because of the schedule. But at the same time, I could see them like if they pick up points where we least expect them, that's going to help them. March is going to be the make. This March is going to be the make or break month, really, for any team. That's where points are at a premium.
And the reality of it is, to me, where they finish in the standings and if they make the playoffs, I don't particularly care.
No,
What I really want to see is I want to see Michkov perform and show signs of being the player that we expect he will become in the future.
absolutely.
And I want to see guys like Forster, Cam York,
Yeah,
Bobby Brink, Owen Tippett,
and Morgan Frost.
guys we haven't even talked about because we don't have enough time to hit all these guys.
Yeah,
I want to see them take steps forward. If all those guys advance their games and become better players,
mm-hmm.
I will consider this having been a successful season, playoffs or not.
Yeah, I totally agree.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And if all those players take those steps, maybe they become a playoff team. That's one could beget the other. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I just want to see progress. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and also too, we should mention this: the future is definitely bright. You got next draft for the Flyers. They've got 8 picks, 6 of which are in the first 2 rounds. So they are stock. They are stocked full of draft picks, and they are not trading those away for anybody. They are making sure that, because this,
Well, we'll see.
we'll see. But I mean,
Depends who's out there and available.
certainly, though, a lot of talent is available in this upcoming draft. And I think Briere is definitely stocked the cupboard full with draft picks to make sure that he's getting the right players in here. So time will tell. I think they are probably still on the outside looking in. If I were to make a gun to the head,
It wouldn't surprise me.
outside looking in, I see them probably in the Red Wings Penguins area if I'm looking at the wild card standings. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. But certainly, I think the future is a lot brighter with number 39 in our squad. That is for damn sure.
We're better off than we were 2 years ago. We'll say that.
No question. Yeah. And no question about it that the fact that you had, Fletcher would never have made that pick. Never would have made that pick on Michkov. Never.
No.
Not even once. Not even close. So, yeah. So that's it for our first episode of Men in Orange and Black. We're happy to have you again with us. And if you like what you've heard over the last hour, please feel free to leave a comment down below, hit like, hit share, and hit subscribe to our channel. We really would appreciate it. If you didn't like what you heard, well, you're either a Penguins fan or we really do appreciate you listening this long. We look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks' time when the episode 2 will kick off. And I guess we'll review the West Coast. Until then, for Steve, I'm Matt. Let's go Flyers.